They were minutes, seconds away from signing a $500 million deal that would transform the entire company's future. Cameras were ready. Reporters waited outside. The board members smiled confidently. Certain history was about to be made. But then, a voice shattered the room. "Stop! Don't sign that paper!" Everyone froze. Standing in the doorway was not a lawyer, not a board member, not even an employee. It was a 17-year-old girl, the daughter of the company's maid. Breathless, terrified, covered in dust as if she had sprinted through the whole building. Security rushed to grab her, but the CEO stopped them. "Let her speak." And in the next 60 seconds, this quiet girl, usually invisible to everyone, revealed a secret so shocking, so dangerous, that it destroyed $1 billion trap built by international businessmen. A trap hidden inside the Arabic version of the contract. A trap no lawyer had noticed. A trap that would have stolen the entire company. But she heard it. She understood it. And she risked everything to expose it. This is her story. The shout hit the room like thunder. Inside the luxurious conference hall of Al Zahir Holdings, conversations froze mid-sentence. Pens hovered above documents. $100 million deal came to a standstill. The marble floor seemed to vibrate from the echo of that desperate voice. Everyone turned toward the massive double doors. There stood Lena, the maid's 17-year-old daughter, breathless, red-faced, and shaking so hard she could barely stay upright. Dust smeared her sleeves. Sweat glistened at her temples. She clearly hadn't just walked there. She had run. The board members frowned, confused and irritated. The company lawyers exchanged baffled glances. Some of the executives recognized her only as the girl who waits for her mother. This was a world of suits, ties, and power, not a place for teenagers in scuffed shoes. At the head of the long polished table sat Cameron Halim, the billionaire CEO. His hand was inches from signing a $500 million international partnership, one that would expand his empire across the Middle East. He stared at Lena with a mixture of confusion and surprise. Security rushed forward instantly, but before they could touch her, "Stop!" Cameron lifted his hand. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had built an empire by spotting signs before disasters, and the fear in Lena's eyes wasn't random panic. It was the kind of fear that came from knowing something terrible. "Let her speak," he ordered. The guard stepped back reluctantly. Lena swallowed, her breath trembling. She scanned the room. Men in designer suits, towering windows overlooking the city, a table covered in documents worth more than anything she owned in her life. But she didn't back down. "Sir, you can't sign that deal," she said, her voice cracking but carrying across the room. Murmurs erupted instantly. Cameron leaned forward. "Why not?" Lena clutched her hands together tightly, fighting the fear twisting her stomach. Because she understood one thing. If she stayed silent, if she let him sign that paper, her mother would lose her job. Hundreds of employees might lose their future. And this company, this empire, would fall into the hands of people planning something dark. She had no choice. She had to speak. Just 1 hour earlier, Lena had been sitting quietly in a back hallway, waiting for her mother to finish her shift mopping the executive wing. She had spent countless evenings here, curled up near the vending machine, doing homework or scrolling her phone while her mother worked long hours. Nothing about today seemed unusual until she heard voices. Low voices, urgent whispers, in Arabic. Lena's ears perked up immediately. She had been studying Arabic for 3 years, dreaming of becoming a professional translator one day. She practiced daily, songs, films, textbooks. She wasn't fluent, but she understood far more than anyone expected. She peeked from behind a marble column. 2 men in sharp suits, members of the Al Rafiq group, were talking in hushed, hurried tones. "He'll sign the deal in minutes," one muttered in Arabic. "He trusts the English version completely." The second man smirked. "But he doesn't know that Clause 9b in the Arabic version transfers 40% ownership next year." Lena froze. 40%? Of Cameron's company. Her heart pounded as the men continued. "By the time they realize, we'll already have controlling power." "Exactly. The contract is a perfect trap." Lena's hands began to shake. She wasn't supposed to understand this conversation. She wasn't supposed to even be there. But fate had placed her right behind that column at the exact moment she needed to be. The men stepped aside, and one pulled out his phone. Arabic text filled the screen, the same plan, written clearly. Lena's photographic memory kicked in. She memorized names, phrases, keywords. The words etched themselves into her mind like fire on paper. Her first instinct was to run to her mother. But then she realized the signing ceremony had already started. If she didn't act immediately, the contract would be approved, and everything would be lost. She sprinted across the building, pushing through hallways she wasn't allowed to enter, up staircases, past floors where her presence would usually get her thrown out. She didn't care. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just a maid's daughter. She was the only person who knew the truth, and she had to stop the signing, no matter the cost. When Lena finished telling the room what she heard, silence slammed down like a hammer. The Al Rafiq representatives stiffened instantly. Their confident smiles faded. Their eyes darted between each other, panic flickering beneath controlled expressions. One of them, Mr. Rashid, finally spoke. His voice was smooth, but his forehead glistened with sweat. "This girl is confused," he said. "She must have misunderstood some casual conversation." "I can read Arabic," Lena shot back, louder than she had intended. Her voice echoed through the room. Gasps rippled through the board. Cameron raised a brow. "You understand Arabic?" "Yes, sir. I've been studying for years." She took a deep breath. "And I know what I heard. They said Clause 9 transfers 40% of your company within a year." Cameron turned toward his legal team. The tension in the room became suffocating. One of the senior lawyers opened a digital contract. He scrolled through the English version, nothing suspicious there. Then he switched to the Arabic text. His expression drained of color. "Sir," he whispered, "Clause 9 is written differently. The English version ends at Section 9A, but the Arabic version includes 9B, which states, a strategic ownership transition of 40% will be enacted after 12 months for operational alignment." A collective gasp erupted. Cameron's jaw clenched. "You tried to deceive us," he said, turning toward Rashid. Rashid stammered. It must be a translation oversight." "No," Cameron snapped. "This was intentional." He slammed the folder shut, so hard it echoed, and the only person who noticed was a 17-year-old girl. Lena felt her knees weaken. She didn't want attention. She just wanted to stop the deal. But now every eye in the room was on her, some shocked, some impressed, some embarrassed they hadn't caught it themselves. Cameron stood slowly. He looked directly at Lena, something like respect forming in his expression. "Thank you for speaking up," he said quietly. "You may have just saved this company." The room buzzed with whispers. The billion-dollar meeting had completely changed course, all because a maid's daughter refused to stay silent. The moment security escorted the Al Rafiq team out, the room erupted into frantic activity. Lawyers tore through every page of the contract. Translators were brought in. Assistants printed new documents. Screens lit up with highlighted clauses and flashing warnings. It was chaos, and in the middle of that chaos stood Lena, small, nervous, but undeniably brave. The legal team uncovered even more hidden traps. A restructuring clause that shifted authority away from Al-Zahir's board. A mandatory purchase of foreign assets at inflated prices. A management support team that would effectively replace local leadership. It wasn't just a bad deal. It was a corporate ambush. If the contract had been signed, Al-Zahir Holdings would have been vulnerable to takeover within a year. Cameron finally stepped away from the chaos and walked toward Lena and her mother, who had just arrived, terrified her daughter would be punished for interrupting an executive meeting. "Sir, please," her mother begged. Lena didn't mean to cause trouble. Cameron raised his hand gently. "She didn't cause trouble," he said. "She prevented it." The maid's eyes filled with tears of relief. Cameron crouched slightly so he was at Lena's eye level. "You said you want to study languages." Lena nodded shyly. "From today," Cameron said, "your education is my responsibility. University, courses, training, everything. You won't worry about money again." Her mother gasped. Lena covered her mouth, overwhelmed. And, Cameron continued, when you're ready, I want you to intern in our international department. Someone with your courage belongs in a position of influence. In that moment, Lena realized something. Courage didn't come from status. It came from doing what was right, no matter how small your place in the world seemed. And Cameron, one of the richest men in the country, was looking at her not with pity, but with admiration. Her life had changed forever. When Lena walked out of the conference hall, the entire building buzzed with whispers. The maid's daughter saved the company. She exposed a $500 million trap. She caught something even the lawyers missed. Who is this girl? Employees clapped when she passed. Executives stopped to thank her. Some even asked if she would consider working with them in the future. For a girl who had spent her life being invisible, it felt unreal. 1 week later, Cameron invited Lena and her mother to his office again. This time, not as staff, not as a maid and her daughter, but as guests. He handed Lena a folder. Inside was her scholarship confirmation, her summer internship placement, and enrollment in an advanced Arabic program. Why are you doing this for me? Lena asked softly. Cameron smiled. Because you reminded all of us of something we often forget, he said. That power does not always sit at the head of the table. Sometimes it sits quietly in the corner, watching, listening, understanding. He paused. And sometimes, courage comes from the places we least expect. Lena felt tears sting her eyes. She thought of all the years she spent sitting in the hallways, ignored by people walking past. All the quiet afternoons she studied alone. All the nights she dreamed of a future she wasn't sure she could reach. Now that future wasn't just possible. It was unfolding right before her. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was the girl who saved a corporation, the girl who exposed an international trap, the girl whose voice stopped a billionaire from making the worst mistake of his life. As she walked out of the office with her mother, sunlight poured through the glass windows, lighting her path. This wasn't the end of her story. It was only the beginning. The $500 million deal didn't break the company. It revealed its unexpected hero. A hero with no wealth, no title, no privilege, just courage. The maid's daughter who exposed the Arabic trap. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage has no age, no title, and no status, then make sure you hit the like button so more people can hear it. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful, emotional stories that prove heroes come from the most unexpected places. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because you never know. The next story might inspire your next step in life. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room carries the loudest truth.